TRIDOM is a trans-border conservation initiative which aims at protecting contiguous parks in the Cameroon, Congo and Gabon. Joining us now to explain the motivation behind this formation of the trans-border park in the region is Pauwel de Wachter. He is TRIDOM's coordinator at the World Wildlife Fund. Mr. de Wachter, thank you so much for joining us. Take us through the three countries that are affected by the initiative, and how are the countries going to be, coordinating their initiatives to prevent, for example, rhino poaching, which is quite rife in that part of the world.
Yes, in northern Gabon, southeast Cameroon and northwest Congo, the elephant poaching crisis is very, very serious. For example, northeast Gabon lost an estimated 11,000 elephants over the last 8 years. The situation is similar in South Cameroon and northwest Congo. Countries are planning trans-border patrols and increased patrols, including with the military, to protect a kind of clear and hold strategy to protect the last elephant bastions. Also, they want to improve the intelligence work, so to dismantle the criminal syndicates, basically, which are behind the ivory trade.
Now, take us through the criminal syndicates that are operating there. Which country are they working from as a base, and how are the three countries going to be launching joint operations to try and break through, the very advanced technology that the criminal syndicates often have access to?
Well, there has not been that much success yet in dismantling these networks, and not so much is known about them. Some are linked to terrorist groups, and it's more the middlemen here, because we work here in Central Africa, it's more the middlemen who are better known and who need to be dismantled. The larger networks, I think they operate from the consumer countries, which is basically in Asia.
Yeah. Now, if one looks at the law enforcement situations in the various countries, take us through what legislative mechanisms exist in Gabon to make sure that people are, discouraged from participating in these activities. We know often that large amounts of money are given to people to become involved. What is the kind of legal framework within a place like Gabon that will act as a deterrent for these criminal syndicates to recruit locals to help them in the activities?
Here Gabon is still quite weak, because the maximum sentence for a first-time offense like elephant poaching is only 6 months. So the president of Gabon has announced very recently that elephant poaching will be upmarked to become a crime, which would lead to like 10-year sentences. And I think links with transnational criminal syndicates will be up to 15 years of prison.
Now, give us an idea of what the financial aspect of this initiative is going to impact on. We know that this is a very lucrative trade. It's being driven from the east. There's a very big market for elephants. Now, how much of this is going to be impacted upon in financial terms? What is the illegal trade in elephant tusks, for example, worth? Do you have a ballpark figure?
Well, we know that all illegal wildlife and wildlife trade is about $8 to $10 billion a year. For elephants, we're talking about 30,000 dead elephants per year from Africa. At, let's say, that means something like 180,000 kilos of ivory a year, meaning that could mean it's in the tens and tens of millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm. Now that's of course
at the local price, and then and in China it's very high, but I don't have directly the figure.
Mm-hmm. Now this is of course a very lucrative trade, as I was saying. Besides the law and order initiatives that are in place, what other mechanisms can be put in place to prevent criminal syndicates from getting assistance from locals? Because it's obviously with the help of people in the specific countries that we've mentioned that they are able to move the trade. From where you're sitting from a wildlife and conservation point of view, What is it that you can do with local communities to draw them in, to let them buy into the understanding that conservation in the long term is in their interest as much as in the country's interest?
Well, of course, we see that, for example, in countries like Botswana and Namibia, there you have those community conservancies, you have well-established ecotourism industries which put value on the elephant. So that's definitely something that works in some countries. It tends to work. There is much less ecotourism here in Central Africa, although there are a few examples. But yeah, the elephant needs to get value for local communities. And on the other hand, we have then the Asian consumers. We have to reach the Asian consumers because that's where the demand is. And if demand can be reduced there by telling the story of what's happening in Africa's forests, that would also have a real impact on the elephant poaching. And that's why, for example, WWF is now doing a petition where we want 1 million signatures to prohibit the elephant ivory trade in Thailand, which is a loophole for African elephant ivory.
Mr. de Wachter, a final question. In terms of your joint initiatives with the other countries, you were speaking about law enforcement initiatives, sharing of intelligence, but from a conservation point of view, what are your counterparts in Cameroon and Congo doing, that enhances the efforts that you participating in Gabon? And is it possible to kind of get synergy between your efforts and the efforts of these other two countries?
I think currently in the region, in terms of effort in the field, Gabon is leading. It's putting the military in Minkebe. It's massively upscaling the patrol efforts to protect those lost elephants. We think that Cameroon and Congo need to really get aware that the problem is also very serious there. There's the same poaching gangs that operate there. And they need also to upscale their effort if those elephants are to be saved.
Well, that's where we will have to leave it. That was, of course, Pauwel de Wachter, TRIDOM coordinator at the World Wildlife Fund, discussing the motivation behind the formation of a trans-border park in the region.